excited to be here. Thank you, Joe, for the introductions, and thanks to the committee for giving me this opportunity to come here and talk to you guys. So, you know, when I found out that I was going to be the keynote speaker, I talked to Carrie about what she thought, you guys might be looking for, what I perhaps would have been looking for starting out in my career. And she mentioned talking about just some of the different positions I've held and how those transitions took place, what lessons I may have learned along the way. So this was actually pretty fun putting together and thinking back on everything over the last 7 years now. And so what I'm going to do today is just kind of go through some different things that I've learned, and I'm going to share that in terms of like just different stories that took place along the way. So I call it things I know or things I think I know. We'll see. All right, first thing. So this is from like my second year of teaching. I recall, being with some of my teacher friends who were driving, and I was telling them about how I just got this really cool opportunity. I was asked by UTeach and NIMSY to go to DC to serve on a panel and talk about the state of STEM education nationally. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. So I'm sharing it, I'm talking about it, what I think I'm going to talk about at the panel. And one of the people there just stops me and goes, well, that's great and all. Why did they pick you? And I thought, okay, that's a little rude. But then I was like, oh, they picked me because, the thing is, they picked me because of I realized I don't know why they picked me. I had nothing prepared for that. I was already thinking about the state of STEM education, and I had no idea why I would need to be in that conversation. And that moment and that question stayed with me. I've always let that question just kind of linger no matter what I'm doing, because it brings up this idea that I really want to get across to you guys, which is the importance of advocating for yourself. It's not about being arrogant. It's not about, no longer being humble, because you absolutely should be. It's about realizing and recognizing the drive that's within of you, the reason why you guys are all here during the summer. You're always trying to better yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know why you deserve a seat at that table, because more than likely, other people aren't going to spell it out for you, so you have to know why you deserve to be there, and constantly finding new reasons within yourself to continue to deserve to be there. And with regards to, why would you be picked? Well, starting out as new teachers, there could also be some reasons if some of you guys do see some folks getting opportunities and you think to yourself, well, not so much why them, but why not me? And today what I hope to also go through is some stories and some ways that we can sort of answer both of those questions perhaps. So I mentioned the importance of advocating for yourself. I was watching Carrie talk about 97, and I tried to find a picture of myself from 97, contacted my mom. Turns out there's years that weren't photographed in my life, which I didn't know about. But she was sending me pictures from like way, way long ago or kind of recently, and I was like, are you telling me that you forgot about me in 97? Maybe it's like, I was going through an awkward stage in her defense. But, so I was thinking about, okay, well, what was taking place in my life in 97, right? And not so much 97, but 98 was a really important year. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, then we moved to Saudi Arabia for my dad's work, and then we moved to Texas, to Houston, which was my suggestion. I'm really proud of it. And when we got here, I was starting 6th grade, and towards the end of 6th grade, they had me, or probably early on, they had me take this test. Well, keep in mind, I had never used a Scantron before, or what I from now recall may have been even a Gridable. I was not familiar with any of the procedures or how to use the form, so I remember being in this really small room, kind of felt like a closet, and asking them, like, hey, how do I fill this out? And there was just one lady in there, I remember she had a magazine, and she was like, oh, well, if you don't know how to fill it out, then you'll get placed where you need to be placed. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of a game this is, right? Like, what goes on in Texas? And so I did what I could, and I remember not filling out that form correctly, being really nervous, because now I have no idea what the implications are either. And turns out, well, because I wasn't able to fill out the form completely or properly, I was placed in an ESL program. Now, so going into 7th grade, I had all these ESL classes, and pretty quickly it started to become evident to my teachers and I that perhaps this wasn't the right place for me. You know, when they would talk to me, they would have me do these writing assignments, and time again, and it got to the point where the teachers were like, you don't have to do this, you can do, homework for another class or whatever else you want to do. And at the time, my parents, coming into this country, working 2 jobs, working extremely hard so I could be here in front of you today. I'm a product of their sacrifices, and they didn't know much about the system either, so I took it upon myself, started going to the counselors, to the assistant principals, to whoever I could go to who might have a say in what courses I'm going to take. And the teachers wouldn't let me go during classes, so I went during lunch. If my bus got me early enough, I went there before school. I wasn't supposed to be able to take the test till the end of 8th grade, going into 9th grade, but I got to take the test towards the end of 7th grade. And yeah, I placed out, and I was able to even enroll in some pre-EP classes going to 8th grade, and it never came up again. And that was, for me, a really important moment because, again, it brought up this idea, this drive within myself to always advocate for myself, to stand up for myself, to speak up when something doesn't feel right, and to also let people know when I think I might be underestimated. And something like that also happened, several times later in my life as well, but one particular event that I want to tell you guys about. This was later on in my teaching career. At the high school I was at, they had an instructional coaching position open up, and I thought, okay, well, this could be something cool. I'd like to be considered for it. So I found out who's responsible for hiring, and I went to one of the hiring principals to talk about it. And I said, hey, I know you guys are going to have this position coming up, and I would like to be considered for it, or at least like an interview for it. And the first thing that the principal said was like, well, I didn't think you would be interested in something like this. We were thinking about who might be well suited for this, and it's not that I don't think you can do it, but I just didn't think this was something you would be interested in. And I was like, well, I've been writing curriculum for the last couple of years. I've been hosting professional development for the district, for GT placements, different science teaching professional developments. And here's why I think I deserve to be considered for it at least. And by the end of it, she was like, yeah, I totally see it. I agree. I think, you could be great for this, and we'll definitely call you in for an interview, and thanks for coming by and letting me know that you were interested in it. And again, that goes to this idea that you have to be the person controlling the conversation about yourself, about your career. Notice in that story, I didn't go to the teacher's lounge and start telling people that I want to go up for this promotion or for this other position. I didn't even go to the other teachers around me. I went to the person who would need to hear it the most, the person who would be responsible for, or at least one of the folks responsible for making that decision, because I didn't want them to hear it from anyone else but me. That message needed to come from me. So keep that towards the back of your mind. Just because someone doesn't know you're interested sometimes doesn't mean they wouldn't consider you for it or don't think you're qualified for it. So you do have to often go in and express that interest, and it should come from you. You are the only one who knows why you deserve to be considered. So control that message and how you get that out there. Another lesson that I wanted to share with you guys as well. You might get assigned mentors as you're going into schools and different programs and stuff, and that's great. That's wonderful that your schools are doing that. But please note that those are not the only mentors that are available to you, and your mentors don't have to know they're mentoring you, right? And that sounds a little weird, but let me explain that. You see someone and you say, okay, here's this coordinator, here's this principal, here's this teacher, department chair, whoever they might be, and you think, wow, I want to be like that person. I want to do those types of things that they are doing. And that's great. That doesn't mean that you need to have this awkward conversation about, will they be your mentor? Or doesn't mean that they'll stop by your room and be like, I was thinking about you and you'd make a great mentee for me. So that might not happen, and that's totally okay. What you need to do is find ways to work with them, find ways to work around them, to collaborate with them. And even if they are not necessarily, if you're not working with them, be observant of how they interact with other people. There's so much you can learn just by watching the way leaders talk to other people, the way that they network as well. So know that your mentoring network, for instance, isn't limited to just who you were assigned to. You can get mentored by anyone you'd like to be mentored by. You just need to be around them, and if you can work with them and learn from them directly in that way, even better. So, speaking of mentoring experiences, sometimes you learn things that you shouldn't do, right? And that, in a way, is kind of like mentoring too. But we can leave early on early dismissal days. I remember my first year teaching, it was the first early dismissal, and one of the teachers around, stopped me in the hall and was like, "Oh, hey, Mariam, I know you're new to the school, just wanted to let you know, on early dismissal days, we get to leave with the kids too. I know you look kind of tired." I was tired. And, so you can leave with the kids too. That's what we get to do. And I was like, really? I heard something about teachers needing to stay till 3 p.m., which didn't really matter to me because I was excited for early dismissal because that would mean that I could possibly leave by 5 p.m., which is when I wanted to leave those days. So I was like, this is great. It is an early dismissal. But I remember her saying, she was like, "Oh, no, they don't care. No one cares. No one will even see you." And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. But the thing about that is, people do see you, right? You guys are all quality teachers. You will know, or if you don't already know, the quality teachers around you. You're aware of that. It doesn't have to be said, but you recognize that. And you never know who is going to serve on your interview panel someday. You just don't know that. You also don't know what kind of opportunities maybe might come up the days that you do leave early if you don't have to, if you're not supposed to. So just constantly be aware of the fact that just because you could get away with something like that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the route you take, because again, people are always watching. Even if it seems like they don't care, they do care. Someone somewhere does care. So so whenever you get that type of advice, which I'm sure at some point in your careers you will, just use your best judgment. So this statement over here about you guys being a brand. Now I know you guys might read that statement and think to yourself, well, I'm not a brand, I'm a person, right? And you are a person, okay? You guys are that. But you are also a brand, and you are also gonna be promoting yourself. And here's what I mean by that. Well, we all know that, for example, companies like Starbucks, right? They've got a whole PR team out there making sure that their message gets delivered in the proper way, that they've got all these marketing techniques put in and all that. Well, you don't necessarily have all that. I think you have all that going on. You are your own PR system, okay? You are the person putting out the message about you, and that message isn't necessarily just what you are saying verbally. It could be things you're posting online that speak for you long after you are done talking or posting about them. And we all know that teachers, for example, can be held at a higher standard than, say, accountants, for instance, right? Not like accountants are deviant or anything like that, but teachers are held at higher standards. People do care what teachers, whether it's for their kids, whether it's principals looking in, whatever the case might be, they do care what they're posting. And you guys have probably already heard that about, your social media stuff, maybe your schools or your master teachers have talked to you about it. But I want you to think a little further than that, okay? I mentioned advocating for yourself earlier. I recall thinking my first few years, I wish someone would observe me more. I know my principals come by when they can and all that stuff, but I would like to be observed a little bit more. I'm doing this or here, or just for the sake of getting feedback, which is always great too. So then I start to realize, well, what if, a day that I'm doing something cool, like some project or some lab or something I'm really excited about, what if I just send an email to the department chair or, one of the assistant principals and say, hey, today we're doing this and this in physics. If you guys have a chance, stop by and check it out. And turns out, when you do that, people are more likely likely to come by your room and you invite them. It's great. And so, again, it's not so much about like, look at me over here, but you're promoting what work you're doing, right? And you're also getting feedback on it as well. So it won't just be, you did a great job today. It could also be, have you considered doing this or that, which you may not have considered unless you invited someone into what you're doing. So it doesn't have to be a physical invitation of someone coming into your classroom. You could even have like a blog where you share out things you're doing. I've seen teachers who have like Twitter feeds for their classroom where they just share out all the stuff that's going on. Because you see, if and when you do go to a different school for a teaching position, for a department chair position, for a principal position, whatever the case might be, that person hiring you, even though you're a person, is looking at you like you would look at a brand. What do you do when you go to when you're trying out a restaurant or trying out a new drink at Starbucks? You might pull out your phone, you might look on Yelp, you might ask your friends if they've tried it, what do they think about it? That's exactly how it would work with you too. They might look within their network. Who knows you? Who has worked with you? What does anyone know about what you've been doing? So if you've been just doing these amazing things with the door closed, never really sharing it out with anyone else, then your brand hasn't really been developed yet. So consider that. Consider how you're getting. We talked about the importance of you getting your message across. Consider how you might do that. Again, blog, website, get your own domain, own that place and deliver whatever kinds of materials or whatever it is that you want to deliver to people who are looking into what's going on in your classroom. So this next thing is more about, when I started teaching, shortly after I decided, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get my master's. I found a program that I was really excited about. So every summer, for 3 summers, I would actually come here, not too far actually, the Pickle building right back there, I think I'm pointing in the right direction, back that way, where I would work on my master's degree. And it would be all summer long. I would pretty much leave so school ends on Friday, I drive to Austin Sunday, and I would come back right in time for me to participate in and help out with professional developments in my school district in August. So it was busy, and I would often have teachers say like, I don't know why you're doing this, maybe, like, I don't know, maybe you should consider not doing this for a summer or something. Like, I feel like I need my travel time, it's my personal time, it's important to me, and I totally get that. There is nothing wrong with that. You should do, with your time off, with your summer, you should do whatever it is that you're excited about, whatever it is that you feel will help you get from that end of the school year to the start of the next school year. Because it's important that you come back. But I said, well, what if you consider the fact that I view my degree, my graduate work, the same way you view your vacation in a sense, where it's something personal, it's something I'm excited about, it's something I feel will make me better when I come back to the school year. It's something that's helping me grow, it's going to be an important part of me. And so I bring that up to say that doesn't mean that it was the same as me hanging out at a beach or something like that, right? It wasn't quite like that. There are sacrifices that would need to be made. And that's just the truth of it, because when you accept one opportunity, whether you realize it or not, you are saying no to something else. For example, if you accept serving on some committee for your school, that means Mondays and Wednesdays from 2:30 to 4:30. Well, then, in a way, you're saying no to hosting that one club for your school that you may have wanted to host, or maybe having tutorials during that time, or going to the gym or something. I don't know. But you could be saying no to something else without that question being phrased that way. You have to view it that way and consider what matters most to you. And if what matters most to you is improving in your craft, is perhaps taking on leadership opportunities, then be available for those leadership opportunities. I've so often seen teachers being offered to do things over the summer or after school or Saturday, because that's when those types of things, curriculum, professional development, that kind of stuff takes place. And because they say no a few times in a row to those opportunities, they don't come back again. So choose wisely on what it is that you're saying yes to, and consider what you might be saying no to by agreeing to doing that thing. be purposeful. So this story is about when I started working at the Shaw Center. So one of the last things that I got to do in my district was really cool. They opened this STEM center. It was going to be a STEM center, and then right when I was getting interviewed, they were like, it is now a STEAM center, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. It's like, okay, well, I know about STEM, so I could figure one more letter out, right? And I knew immediately what I started to figure out was sometimes we'll be in situations where people want results. They kind of know what type of results it is they want, but they're not sure about the process. And they're not talking about the process either. They're just talking about what perhaps could or should take place. And while working at that center, I realized how important it was for me to take the time that I did to develop a vision, to talk to people, to network, to see what kind of other examples were out there for a place like this. What else could I learn from other people who had been in similar situations, similar positions as I am right now, and how I can then be strategic with what I choose to take place at this place, who the different companies I might collaborate with, and how that message gets received. Because when I walked into an empty building. I was looking at nothing, but what I knew, what was important, was what I saw, and how I could get other people to see what I was looking at in that empty building, right? So I realized how important the process was, because the thing is, a lot of times people get so focused on just results. Let's just do, let's just get these things out there, get these products out there. But you have to be willing to do all of the work if you can, right? You're not above the grunt work either. So whether it was posting up flyers or making name tags or whatever it is, like, you have to be willing to do all of that. You have to be fully invested in that process and take lessons from it along the way, because that's what's going to help you do other things in the future. That's what's going to be the most important part of your growth. If you're invested in the process, the results will follow. If you focus on the process, you will end up with the results too. And even if you don't end up with them exactly the way you want them, you will still walk out of there learning a lot from it. So I was fortunate to work with a lot of great people, get to know a lot of great people, and deliver the results that I wanted to see take place there. But what shaped me through that experience was being purposeful in the process that I took to get from point A to point B. All right, so you guys might be thinking to yourself, well, in 5 years from now, I want to be, or 5 or 10 years from now, I'd like to be a principal in a school. I'd like to be an instructional coach, a specialist, a coordinator. That's great. You should think long term, and you should be constantly reminding yourself of your goals. That's important. But at the same time, you have to appreciate where you are. You have to invest yourself in the position that you're in. And an example I can give you for that is, I recall working in a team of teachers where one person early on announced, hey guys, I'm working on my master's to become an AP, and so, that's what's going to be taking up some of my time, and, constantly kept reminding us where, he or she was going soon, and we're like, okay, that's fine. And so then this person wouldn't show up to some of our team planning meetings and stuff like that. And the thing about it is, it's great that you have these ambitions, whatever it might be, but you're not going to get considered for them if you're not investing your all in the position that you currently have. If it doesn't look like you enjoy being there doing what you're currently doing, then chances are when you do go and apply for that next position or interview for it, you won't have as much to show for it. You won't have the types of references you want. And frankly, what is it even all for at that point if you're not enjoying being where you are as a teacher doing what you're doing? So I want you guys to keep that in mind, because even if that person didn't realize that we kind of felt like, well, maybe this work is beneath them, just constantly putting that message out to us with that, I'm out of here, suckers type attitude, that gets noticed, and that does not go well with your colleagues either, who, by the way, might get a position before you do, or might be the people who you will be leading one day. So consider that. Okay, people will take credit for things sometimes. That's gonna happen, and I see some of you guys in the audience kind of nodding your head or putting your head down. I know, it sucks when people do that. I don't know why they do it. But we do know why they do it. I mean, it's easy sometimes, but it happens, and if it hasn't happened to you, I'm really happy for you. I hope it doesn't, but it can. And I'll give you an example of it. I was working with a team of teachers, actually it's one of my friends at a different school who mentioned to me, like, we've been working on this project together, we were putting on this whole thing, and the principal, it all goes really well. Then the principal sends out an email to the whole school and says, hey, great job, on doing this, and he lists all the teachers that were in the team, and she's upset because she's like, well, they didn't do anything, right? They were there for the actual event, but they did not put in the work that I put in, and I really want my principal to know that they didn't do their end of the work, that it was me. And, her question was, well, how do I tell my principal that without seeming like, that girl or that guy or whatever? And the truth is, you can't. You really can't go about it that way without seeming like that person, because in that case, you are that person in that scenario. And what you have to consider is a couple of things. First of all, like I said, people do watch and people do notice. So if these other folks you're working with may not be carrying their weight, that may not just be in this particular case, that might be in other instances too. And you don't know that there aren't people around your principal who haven't already taken note of what was going on. Second, if you do want to be a leader, you've got to be able to work on teams. And the truth is, when you do get to leadership roles, it's not like all the teams you're on are fully functioning and great, right? So you're going to have to deal with stuff like that, and that's also an important thing to be able to show your principal that you can handle that. And, lastly, you are as good as you think you are, which means that you're going to continue to shine through other endeavors, through other projects throughout your career, and this will just add on to that. So it doesn't have to all be based on just this one thing. So when something like that does happen and you are in a situation like that, know that you are going to do so much more than just this one event, just this one project. This will not be the only thing that defines what an excellent quality teacher you are, and just know that it does happen sometimes. All right, so this last story is there was a time when I was working at a high-need school, and we did not have great rates of students coming in for like after-school programs or things like that, and I worked with some teachers to put on this Saturday event to not so much like a tutorial session, but more like a symposium of sorts. We were going to give them all sorts of things, have prizes, do games, have all sorts of engaging stuff going on for them when they came in, and make it a lot more fun while still covering the learning that we want to. It could be the kind of experiences we want them to get in the classroom daily, but that may not have been a case for all of these students. So we decided to do something for them on a Saturday to get them prepared for an upcoming exam as well. And I was told by some of the folks who had been in the school years and said, hey, Mariam, this is great. I just want you to know, like, we've done this before on a Saturday, and the kids don't come. We did it, and we had like 9 kids show up. So I just want you and the teachers you're working with to be prepared. That could happen. I remember thinking to myself, well, that won't happen. I don't want it to happen. But okay, fine, fair enough. That could happen. To me, that just means the 9 kids coming in are going to have a great time. I'm going to have everything ready, even if it's just 9 kids coming through. And so on paper, so to speak, or in person, I let that expectation sit at, okay, fine, say we get 9 kids, let's just work towards that. And all the meanwhile, we were still working on getting sponsors and, having items ready and everything. Well, I didn't let what he said or the expectation that was put forth in front of me change the expectation I had for myself or for the team that we were all working on. So that day, we ended up having about 150 kids come through, and we were ready for it. And I was so happy, and I realized how great it can be the times when you do when you do let the expectation, not necessarily low for yourself, don't ever lessen your own expectation of yourself, but if you do let the expectation stand perhaps wherever it is, as low as it might be, but then you over-deliver on what they're expecting, how great that can feel. So when you are in situations, you're going out there, you don't necessarily want to promise, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to change this. Whoa, slow down. I see that a lot in first-year teacher interviews. I know you want to do all this stuff, but you don't have to promise it all from the start. If you want to do it, just do it. Go for it and, go with your own high expectations. If you want to promise the world, promise it to yourself, and then see where you get, and you will still continue to surprise the people that you're around. And that's it. That's all I have. That's the last thing I have to say.